Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us as we kick off the month of September. How cool is that? The hunting seasons are open here now. The weather has cooled down. College football is underway. What more could you ask? All is perfect in the outdoor world. My name is Mike Avery, and this is the Outdoor Magazine Radio Show. I'm back in the studio after being gone for a week. I was in northern Ontario, White River, Ontario, on a bear hunt with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters. If you've been following me on social media, you know the results of my hunt, but I'll walk you through the story here. First of all, okay, September. This is Labor Day weekend, by the way. I hope you get a chance to enjoy this weekend. I hope there's not too many projects, too many jobs on your list that you want to get accomplished. But thank goodness it's cooled down. When I left White River, it was 50 degrees. When I got home to mid-Michigan, it was 90 degrees. I'll take the 50 over the 90 anytime. So I was very excited to get back to Ontario. Didn't think it was going to happen because of COVID. Ron St. Louis opened up his operation at the last minute. We only had 15 hunters in camp, which is far fewer than normal. But of course, you had to be fully vaccinated. You had to have the negative COVID test. It wasn't. People say, "How was it getting across the border?" It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I waited 45 minutes in line. But once I got to the agent, it was about 5 minutes. Not a big deal at all. It was hot all the way up to White River. I got just outside of town. It cooled off. It rained. A storm came through, and it was nice. It was beautiful. However, there was a full moon. I do not like to hunt big game on a full moon. I don't like it. But the things we had going for us in White River were the animals had not been hunted in a year and a half, and there was no berry crop. When there's no berry crop, the animals tend to hit the baits a little bit harder. I had 2 baits, one on the side of a hill, one on the edge of the water. These are both baits I had hunted before, both baits I had seen bears before. I think I had taken bears at both of these baits before. I get out that afternoon, I set up a couple of blinds. I set up a Wraith 270 see-through blind from Primal, and I set up a Breeze warm weather blind. It was still pretty warm. I'd never taken an animal out of a Breeze yet. Next day, I go out there to bait the stands and to hunt. No, I went out in the morning. I went out in the morning to check my trail cameras. The bait on the side of the hill, when I get out there, pull my card, and my blind is on the ground. I don't know why it is that bears don't like my blinds. I've talked to a lot of people who have hunted bears for years and never had a problem with the bears either destroying their blinds or ripping it up or at least chewing on them. For some reason, they tend to like my blinds. And maybe I either put a good smell in those blinds or a bad smell. I'm not sure what it is, but the bears love my blinds. So the blind is pushed down. It's on the ground. I'm thinking, oh boy, when I open this thing back up, is it going to be shredded? Because I've found that before, or at least teeth marks in them. Fortunately, this one was in good shape. I just popped it back up and I'm good to go. Go back into town, get some things around, get my bait, come back out. I bait the far stand by the water, even though I'm going to hunt the one on the side of the hill. I get hunkered down in that blind. And when you're going to be sitting there for 6 or 7 hours, you got to find, and that's why I love hunting from a ground blind, right? You can get away with a little bit more movement. For me to sit in a tree stand out in the open for 7 hours, I don't think I could do it. But I can sit in a ground blind for 7 hours. So what I do is I put movies on my phone, or I put books on my phone, or podcasts, and, you know, entertain yourself. So I'm sitting there for a couple of hours, look up, and coming in from the right, my first bear of this trip. I don't care how many bears I kill or how many bears I see. Every bear I see is a thrill. I love them. And right away with me, the first thing in my mind is, all right, I'm starting to judge this bear. How big is it? And is it a boar or is it a sow? Is it a male or is it a female? I can tell right away it's not a big bear. Now, it's a respectable bear. Probably I'm thinking about 175-ish pounds, maybe a little smaller. A respectable bear. A shooter bear, absolutely, but it wasn't what I was looking for the first night of the hunt. So I watched that bear for a while. He came in a couple of times. That's the end of the first day. Second day, I'm hunting in the same blind. When I went out there, I pulled the trail camera pictures. I didn't see any other bears on this bait. Now, I was expecting to see on this hunt several, not necessarily I would see several, but I expected that the hunters would see several big boars over 300 pounds because it hadn't been hunted in a couple of years. But on this bait, it looked like there was not a big boar hanging around this bait. The second night, I saw the same bear, came in a couple of times, gave me shots. I just didn't want to take them. I decided to jump over to my second bait. The second bait appeared to have a little bit bigger bear on it. There was signs, there was scat that there was a huge bear in there, and wolves. There was wolf poop at my bait too, which is kind of cool. And this is the third day of the hunt. Now, when I went up there, in my mind, I'm thinking I would like to shoot a 300-pound plus boar bait, bear. But the reality of the situation started to sink in. It's like, okay, we're not seeing the big boars. I asked Ron St. Louis about this, and he said, Mike, it has been so unbearably hot and miserable for a week before you guys got up here. He said, I think those big boys are just laying low. I really wanted to shoot a bear on this trip. I really wanted bear brats. I love bear brats, and I have a lot of friends who love bear brats. So I really wanted to shoot a bear and come home with some meat. I really wanted to try out that new Rec broadhead, Michigan-made Rec, R-E-K broadhead. And nobody had ever taken an animal with that Dart and Toxin 100 crossbow yet, the RD, reverse draw. So I had a lot of things working towards shooting a bear. 3 o'clock, I get out there. I bait the stand. I get back into my blind. I'm getting set up, and at 3:20, a bear walks in. Again, every bear is a thrill. And this particular bait, I am on it close. This is a close-up spot. So this is an up-close and personal interaction with this bear. And this bear is curious. It knows something's up. Bears can't see very well, but they can hear quite well, and they can smell very well. This bear is curious. It wants to know what's in that blind. So it comes up to the blind, about 12 feet away. It's looking in the blind. It's got its nose in the air, trying to figure out, can I smell Avery? Does he have those hunter sticks in there with him? Bear comes up, looks around, circles around to the right, doesn't wind me, goes back to the bait, knocks it over. Unfortunately, knocks it over at a bad angle to give me a bad shot. I knew I was not going to shoot this smaller. Again, what I knew was a sow just from looking at her. I wasn't going to shoot this bear that afternoon. However, because I want to go home with some bear brats, some bear meat, they won't become brats until Michigan brand does it. I thought if this bear comes back at 7 o'clock tonight, I might shoot this bear. 7 o'clock that night, a bear comes in from the left. I said, hey, this isn't the same bear. This isn't that small sow. I watched this bear for a while, determined again it was another sow. However, I'm confident, especially looking after video, it was a different sow. It was a bigger sow. Not a huge sow, but a bigger sow. Sows without cubs are legal targets. Sows without cubs are ethical targets. There's nothing wrong with shooting a sow without cubs, especially in an area like that that has a lot of bears. It's a population control. The only opening I had for this shot was between two trees about 8 inches apart. And at that point, I was very glad I had the crossbow. I would not have taken that shot with a recurve. I probably would not have taken that shot with a compound. But with a crossbow, I knew I could sneak that arrow between those trees. I watched the bear for a long time, so she got in just the right position. Finally, the cameras are rolling. I got the scope on the bear. She moves just right. She quarters away from me. She puts her leg forward. I squeeze the trigger on the crossbow, and the arrow flies towards her. I can see the lighted green knock, and it hits her exactly where I want to. She growls, she spins around, and she takes off into the bush. Now I'm quiet. I'm waiting for this death moan. I want to hear this moan to let me know that she's down and for good. Never heard it. I knew it was a good shot, though. With bears, when it's a good shot, I don't wait very long. I found blood at the bait. I found a blood trail that, to steal a line from Stevie Wonder, from Ted Nugent, a blood trail that Stevie Wonder could have followed. She goes across some boulders. She goes across the water. I get to the water. I'm thinking, this is a dead bear, but I'm too old to try to get her out of there by myself. I go back to town to get help. I come out with the guys from White River and some other hunters. We find her about 80 yards away. She's 185 pounds of beautiful bear meat. It was a pretty good job getting her out of there, but it was a great hunt. A beautiful trophy, some great bear meat, and a wonderful hunt. And I can't wait already to get back there next year. NorthernWildernessBearOutfitters.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we're getting ready for bow season with Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And let's go to Lansing, WILS 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. And I hate to say this, but for many people, it's going to be time soon to take the boat out of the water. I know there are a lot of hardcore anglers and hunters that are going to be out there until the ice freezes. But if you're looking for did I even use the word? If you're looking for end of the season work on your boat or storage, the folks at Linwood Beach can help you out. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Real quick ending to the story I was just telling here about my Ontario bear. I will have that made into burger and brats by my friends at Michigan Brand Meats. Not really interested in bear steak or bear roast, but bear burger is great, and bear brats and the folks at Michigan Brand will do a great job on that. All right, so this is the first show in September. This is Labor Day weekend. The hunting seasons are open here in Michigan. It won't be long before the archery deer season is open. You've got a lot of bear hunters out there before then looking for bears with bows. I love bow hunting. I love bow hunting. I have nothing against guns. I love guns. But there's something about archery tackle, whether it's a recurve, a compound, or even a crossbow. To me, it's all bow hunting. When I think about bow hunting, there are certain people that I turn to when I'm looking for advice and expertise and insight. And the folks at Bowhunter Planet are right at the top of the list. Bowhunter Planet, a group of Michigan guys who have built this online community around the lifestyle of bow hunting, and they've done a wonderful job. Dave Thomas is one of those guys, and he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Dave, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, Mike, doing good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, always a pleasure. It's got to be a busy time of year for you guys right now, isn't it?
Just getting started, yep. Things are starting to get rolling here. Lots of guys getting excited.
I got to believe with the amount of content that you guys generate, it never really slows down that much, though, does it?
Never, no. I wish. Sometimes.
Tell me about Bowhunter Planet. How did you guys come up with this concept?
Yeah, BHB started in 2009, and it was basically a journal. I wanted it to be a journal to keep all of our content in one spot and our videos in one spot, and that's kind of how it started. And we were going to do a forum, but at the time, Archery Talk was the largest forum, and I thought it'd be really hard to compete versus that, so it would be best to focus on YouTube and online video content at that time. And after that, YouTube blew up for like review type stuff for all sorts of things. And unfortunately, I didn't do one in something else as well, or else I'd be a millionaire today.
So where do we find you these days online? What different forums?
Yeah, Mike, it's insane. It's always changing too, to be honest. Right now we are on Carbon TV, which we love because Carbon TV doesn't regulate anything, so it's really nice for hunting purposes. We're also on YouTube still, which has been one of our longest standing spots. Facebook we use mainly for Facebook Live. Instagram is a big one for us right now, and we love it because it is a community-driven type photography thing. So people are sharing their photos with us that we can share with the community, which has been amazing, and the response has been great on it. We also started playing around on TikTok, which is more of a younger generational thing, and that has been nice because we've been able to, in our mind at least, get younger generations into hunting using TikTok. So that's one of the reasons we even started that one, is just to see, can we get to the youth? Can we find a way to them? And that was our goal with that one.
And you're getting some response there, Dave, on TikTok?
Yeah, we're up to almost 30,000 followers on there. It's moved quick. It's moved quick for us. And just making quirky, funny videos and some giveaways, different things like that have been a real big win for us on that platform. And so we project that we'll still grow on it for the next, year or so. We'll just keep focused on what we're doing. Same with Instagram. We had focused on growth, and we've been able to go from like 30,000 to 60,000 just recently. So very happy with the responses we're getting online.
Man, I got to pick your brain off air sometime to get those numbers up there, because there's a certain trick to it that I don't think I've figured out yet. But that's another story. Yeah. So listen, when you look around at the world today, the state of archery today, the state of bow hunting today, we got a tremendous growth in hunters because of COVID. Where are we at these days, Dave?
Yeah, that's a great point, Mike. And I think that all the companies have seen, when I say all the companies, I mean all of hunting, has seen tremendous sales, huge income increases, so that they're able to do more stuff, marketing money, sales money, tech money, coming up with new ideas money. So we're seeing a huge influx of companies just selling everything they have, which has never been seen before, to my knowledge at least. And so companies like Matthews, Bowtech, Darden, you name them, they're selling all their products. So this is like the biggest win for everybody. On top of the fact that you're getting new people into the industry, which is the biggest win for us, to get these people out there that have never shot a bow and want to learn archery or shooting a gun or whatever it is, just to get outside and do something fun.
Has the product availability loosened up at all, or are things really still hard to get?
I would say it's getting better. I have actually, on our podcast, I had talked to 3 or 4 companies recently, and they had said that the products are starting to get stock again, but it's still selling fast. So I think a lot of companies, what we're seeing is that are selling direct now a little bit because they don't have a choice with how fast it has to move. So a good example is Under Armour. We had Under Armour on the other day talking about their hunting clothing. And they were talking about how people are buying a lot of stuff on their website now faster than they would normally with the normal process of getting stuff. So I think that, being said, is kind of like it's changing the sales methods as well.
It could have a change in the industry. Some of the retailers are getting bypassed these days.
Yeah, it could happen, yes, in this scenario. And unfortunately, I think they're making money too, though. They're selling everything they have, and they're working hard to get more of it. And I think that it doesn't change when it comes to things like a Matthews Pro Shot bow, right? You're not going to be able to get that direct from Matthews. They're not going to do that because they have a system in place that would allow the dealer to get the credit.
You talked about innovation. What are you seeing out there this year that really got your attention?
So, Mike, this year, the innovation's been unbelievable when you think of a couple different brands, Excalibur being one. They launched a twin strike crossbow. It's a crossbow. It's a double barrel, 2 triggers, and you have a follow-up shot basically after you shoot. So you could fire your crossbow, and then you could move back your finger to another trigger, which would host another bolt that's ready to fire, that's already cocked and ready to go. So that was an outside the limbs, I'm calling it, idea.
And what's the reaction?
Cool,
what's the reaction been to that? Because it hasn't all been positive.
Correct. You're always gonna get that, right? And we've talked about the air bow many times. When companies go outside the limbs or however you want to say it, outside the box, they're going to get some flack for it, no doubt about it. When people realized that the crossbow had 2 triggers, they felt better about it. So at first people thought it was 1 trigger and it fired 2 arrows. They didn't like that. But then when they started realizing that, it's actually a secondary system, it's a secondary trigger, I think they respected the idea a lot more because it gives you another option.
That thing's got to be heavy.
It is not, Mike. That's what's amazing about it. It is not. It is basically as average as any crossbow out there. That's why it's incredible. It was one of the coolest things I've seen this year from crossbow aspect.
What about prices? You and I have talked about this before, that if you get a high-end bow these days, you're looking at well over $1,000 for the bow alone before you add anything to it. Are those prices going up because because of supply and demand?
So starting with the compound market, I would suggest that the prices have not gone up that I've seen. A Matthews bow is around $1,200, which is up from what you and I talked about originally, but has not been up this year specifically. So if you wanted a premium bow in the premium market in aluminum, you're looking at about $1,200. If you wanted carbon, you're looking at $1,700 for like a Hoyt or a PSE in carbon. Now, if you look at a standard bow, that's around $900, which would be, for instance, like a Bear Archery makes like a lot of bows in that market range between $600 and $1,000. So there's a lot of options depending on what you're looking to get. But if you're willing to get a bow that's not the top premium bow, you can definitely get a ready to hunt package from Bear Archery for around $500. I mean, there's lots of options definitely for the archer.
I'm hearing a lot about Bear Archery again lately for just what you're talking about. Good quality, reasonably priced product.
Bear Archery is crushing it, Mike. That's the company that, ever since they made a change in the late 2000s to the Carnage concept, they started really working on design. They launched a bow 2 years ago called the Perception, which was a bow that was meant to show the industry that they can make a bow that's, $1,400 as well, but they don't normally. But they wanted to show, and they proved to the industry they could create a bow that's that high end if people wanted to spend the money. So they have such a range that it's unbelievable when you look at what they offer to the archer. I mean, so the one thing I love about Bear is they're holding to the Fred Bear concepts of getting people outdoors, giving them an affordable, fair price to get a bow in their hands. It's been an amazing venture with them, and also them having Trophy Ridge allows them to package these things and give a consumer a ready to hunt package for a very low cost.
We're talking with Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet, bowhunterplanet.com. Dave, we got to take a break, but I think you can stick around, can't you?
Sure can.
I appreciate that. Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet, bowhunterplanet.com, as we get ready to launch into the fall archery season. A lot of questions yet for Dave, including, he talked about Bear owns, I think it's Trophy Ridge or whatever, but these companies, they're not individual companies anymore. They're all part of these corporate conglomerates. Is that good for us as consumers, or does that get in the way? I also want to ask him, too. Bowhunter Planet just came out with a list of awards of their top companies in the archery industry, and I want to talk a little bit more about that. The website, bowhunterplanet.com, bowhunterplanet.com. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. If you want to get in touch with me, you can do that anytime. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can find me on all of the social media outlets except TikTok. I played around with TikTok. I didn't like it. I might try again. More coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Caro on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. And you can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ, that's 1090 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. On the Ground OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website, mucc.org. That's mucc.org. While you're online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and then head on over to bowhunterplanet.com, bowhunterplanet.com. From there, you can get to all of their social media outlets. We're talking with Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet right now. Dave, before the break, I kind of led you into this, but the outdoor world today is made up less and less of these small family-owned one-company groups, and we're going to the corporate conglomerates that own several companies, several big companies. Does that hurt us or help us as consumers?
I mean, personally, I think it probably helps us because those companies are able to make other companies, what they do is they take the company that's profitable and then they can use that money to help, boost other companies up that might need the help. So I think it's okay. And I also think it's capitalism. You're not going to stop it. You have, a small mom and pop shop that has a broadhead company or something, and they want to make money. So of course they're going to sell the first time someone comes to them and said, here's X amount of dollars. So I think it's okay. And the bigger the company, the more power they have, especially for customer service and things of that nature.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, you guys at Bowhunter Planet put together this list of awards where you honored the top companies and products in the industry. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so so many years ago, we launched the Members' Choice Awards, which we like to do. We were doing it for a few years, and we stopped around 2015. And then this year, we decided we needed to bring it back. We wanted to start awarding companies and people for things they're doing, and we thought it'd be really important to bring that back. So we started the Golden Arrow Awards, we call them. And in there, you have the Consumer Awards, which are voted on by the consumer themselves. They go in and vote for whatever companies they want. Then you have the Team BHP Members Awards. So we did then smooth but fast draw cycles, and we chose the winners for the secondary ones. And then we had the Honor Awards, and then we had the Golden Grip Awards, and all these were done by us internally to help reward what we thought people or companies that deserve some sort of award for the things they're doing.
And what companies did you see? Obviously, Matthews is going to be in there, Hoyt's going to be in there, but what were the highlights?
Yeah, so when you look at the market and you look at these in the consumer division, you had Matthews take first. But if you followed the Members' Choice Awards back to 2015 and before that, you would see that Matthews had maybe 50% of the market, and then today they had 26%. So there's something happening there, right? People are starting to diversify and go out and look at other brands more. And Bowtech came up; they moved up dramatically. Bear Archery stole the third spot, which was huge, which we didn't expect that, and that was a big deal. And we said we think it's because of their variety of options for consumers that they were able to get into that spot. Normally, that spot would be held by like a Hoyt or a PSE, but they got in there and took it. So it just kind of shows you what's happening in the crossbow market. 10 Point took gold. They moved above Raven, which was. I would have thought Raven would have won if maybe a year ago because they were super popular, if you remember. Mm-hmm. But I think 10 Point's been really working that angle to get back ahead of them, and they were able to do that. So that was really, really well done on their part to move that direction, I thought, in looking at it. But tons of great gold winners. Sika won on clothing. There's a ton on there. Trophy Ridge won for the quiver, which, oh, man, their quiver – if you haven't seen it, it's amazing. It has a light on the outside, a green light, and a light underneath the hood, green light LED, so you can see everything. You use it like a flashlight when you're walking out. It's crazy.
What about broadheads? Broadheads are such a personal decision, but that's what really does the damage. It's not the bow; it's the broadhead.
Yeah, the broadhead market has been a huge market. So there's a lot of different heads. As you know, Mike, there's so many. And the couple things held true in this consumer voting is that Rage took the mechanical head spot for gold, which, to be honest, they have kind of retained that for like every year we've ever done it. So they've become so popular, and it's a good head. I've used them. No issues with them for me. But it took the gold, followed by G5 with, I think they have the dead meat or the havoc they used to have. So they took that secondary spot. But if you flip it to fixed blade, G5 took the top spot with the Montec, and Fairdyne took it with Muzzy.
That Montec, that Michigan-made, family-owned Montec, that's been a staple for years.
Huge, yeah. G5 is that their products have always been big, and their prime bows are doing amazing too, and they're starting to come up that ladder as well.
Well, Dave, I would encourage people to check out the website, bowhunterplanet.com, where you can see all of these results. And keep up the good work, man. You guys are killing it, and you are like the industry standard in the bow hunting community for this online, for your online activity. So keep it up, my friend.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet. Bowhunterplanet.com is the website. From there, you can get to all of the social media outlets, including the YouTube stuff that they're doing. All very interesting, all very top-notch. We'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, speaking of top-notch, the Forward Corporation, Jason Wolverton, tells us about an event to raise money for a very good cause that is very dear to my heart. We'll have details on that coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, AM and FM. That's 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. And you can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry for 75 years. They're celebrating their 75th anniversary this year. How cool is that? What a tremendous accomplishment, and what a thing to be proud of. So congrats to everybody at Boning. Check them out online at boning.com, BOHNING.com. Boning.com for target archers and bow hunters as well, and for 75 years they've been doing a great job. Boning.com. Speaking of companies that have been around for a while and doing a great job, the Forward Corporation. I partnered with the Forward Corporation several years ago, and I'm very happy to do that. Many convenience stores, gas stations, they cater to folks like us. If you love the outdoors, you've probably been to a Forward store, or you probably will be to a Forward store. Jason Wolverton is with the Forward Corporation, and they're involved. Listen, Forward Corporation is very community-oriented, and they're proving it once again. Jason, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Mike. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, listen, this isn't as much fun as our walleye fishing trip on Saginaw Bay earlier in the year, but, you know, it's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a blast that night, and, giving away some money to a good cause is a good thing, too.
So what are you guys up to, Jason?
Well, I really proud of this program we've got right now called the Giving Pump. And what we're doing is in the entire months of August and September, every single one of our 26 shell locations will have a designated pump where we will donate a penny per gallon dispensed at that pump to the American Cancer Society.
I have no idea what kind of a volume you guys deal with, but that could be a substantial amount.
Yeah, absolutely. When you hear a penny, it doesn't sound all that impressive, but when you talk about the 26 locations, 2 months long, thousands and thousands of gallons pumped, it's going to be a nice contribution to a great cause.
Now, I use Forward Corporation stations all the time. Is it just one pump at the stations?
Yeah, we have one pump, and it's very easy to find. We've got some really cool-looking graphics on it that say the Giving Pump. It says the American Cancer Society at the top. And if you're interested in which pump is the giving pump at a nearest location to you, you can go to forwardconvenience.com/ACS.
/ACS. All right, I will do that. Forwardconvenience.com/ACS. And this goes through the entire month of September.
It does. Yep, it was the entire month of August. We've just turned the calendar, so now into September. We've got another month to go. So, the way we see it is if you need gas and you're traveling, especially up north, as the fall hunting season is upon us, stop at a Forward convenience store and fill up at the giving pump.
Hey, you're going to need gas anyway, right? So why not go to a Forward store and help out the American Cancer Society? I think it's a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we really are priding ourselves in a lot of our philanthropic efforts. And with cancer touching everyone the way it does, it's just really a no-brainer. And it doesn't cost you a thing. The donation comes from us. The gas isn't any more expensive. So why not go to the giving pump?
So you're not charging me that extra penny. You guys are eating that.
Yeah, absolutely. The contribution's coming just from Forward Corp. And so all you have to do is put the nozzle in your car, listen to the music overhead as you fill up, and maybe head in and get a bag of Michigan brand Mike Avery.
There you go, Jason. Thanks for working that in, too. Hey, listen, you guys, Forward Corporation, Forward Convenience Stores, you've got a long relationship with outdoor enthusiasts. You love hunters and anglers.
Yeah, we're 96 years old, and a lot of our locations, we go basically up and down I-75 from the Saginaw area all the way up to Gaylord, and our customers they're hunters, they're fishermen, women who like the outdoors, and we cater to those people. So whether it's snacks for your blind, little beer for deer camp, whatever it is, we've got it at Forward Convenience Store.
96 years, Jason. You talk about a Michigan outdoor tradition. You guys are right there.
Yeah, you hear the old adage that any business that lasts a couple of years is a success. So the fact that we've been around for 96 and we're still family owned and operated, we're on the 5th generation now, and it's pretty cool to be a part of it. Seeing 100 years, that century mark coming around the corner here pretty soon.
Wow, that is cool. Jason, appreciate you letting us know about this. Forwardconvenience.com/ACS. A penny a gallon goes to the American Cancer Society during the entire month of September, but make sure you seek out that pump. Jason, always a pleasure. Appreciate your time.
Pleasure's all mine, Mike. Thank you so much.
Jason Wolverton of the Forward Corporation. Again, forwardconvenience.com/ACS. Through the month of September, a penny a gallon for the entire month at all 26 of their stations. Look for the pump that is designated American Cancer Society. Very cool indeed. I love working with companies that want to do good. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, Rob Miller, the guy who, in my opinion, he's certainly one of the foremost deer trackers in Michigan through the use of his dogs, but he's certainly been the guy who has promoted this more than anybody. And then Adam Bump of the DNR talks about the fall turkey season and this week's Ask Avery segment. What do you do with a bear once you shoot it? That's all coming up in hour 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, heard on more than 24 AM and FM radio stations across the great state of Michigan. You notice I mentioned the word radio there? This is, first and foremost, a radio show. It is produced, it is distributed, it is scheduled, it is designed as a radio show. And I think the best way to listen to Outdoor Magazine Radio is on your local AM or FM station if you can. There you get your local news, weather, and sports. And the radio stations get the content of the show before the podcast version is uploaded. But if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, isn't it nice to know that there's a podcast version of the show available? Where do you hear it? Well, you can hear it on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear it on my Facebook page. You can hear it on Amazon Music. You can hear it on Audible, on Twitter, LinkedIn, iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, Odyssey, and even on YouTube. I know, it doesn't make any sense to put it on YouTube, does it? But I do, and people watch/listen to the show on YouTube. I also need to put a blatant plug-in for the Outdoor Magazine Podcast Network. Each month, I do podcasts for Jay's Sporting Goods, Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Killer Food Plots, Polar Craft Boats, and Shadow Hunter Blinds. In fact, when we're done here in the studio today, we will be recording an offshore tackle podcast. And I have to tease a podcast coming up. The Angler Quest podcast will be released here soon. We've already recorded it. And man, are there some cool design changes and improvements coming up for the 2022 models of that Angler Quest. Very, very exciting. I will let you know when that is uploaded. Or what do they call it? Dropped, Pat? Is it you drop a pod? Yeah, I don't know why I say that, because you upload it. Anyway, regardless of how you are hearing my voice, I do certainly appreciate it. It feels great to be back here in the studio. I was gone for a week. We recorded a couple of shows ahead of time, so you might not even have known that I was gone, but I was in Ontario on a bear hunt, and I did get my bear. Really a really nice hunt, and I did certainly enjoy it. But it's hunting season here now in Michigan. As we're in the studio now, let's see, the early goose season has started. Teal season has started. The elk season, the early elk season is underway. Small game season kicks off here soon. The fall turkey season, bow season's coming up, and we've got our youth season coming up just around the corner as well. So it is that time of year. Things are starting to rock here in Michigan. If you are a hunter, you know this, but I want to make a point here to the folks who are hearing the show who don't hunt. The goal of every hunter is to make a quick, clean, humane shot that puts the animal down as quickly as possible. Every hunter, whether a bow hunter or a gun hunter, wants that outcome. But because we are people, because we are humans and humans error, and because we're shooting at animals that sometimes move at the last minute, that perfect shot doesn't always happen. When it does, it's a beautiful thing. But when it doesn't, that hunt can go from a rewarding experience to a frustrating experience in a heartbeat. A few years ago in Michigan, it became legal to use dogs to recover fatally wounded deer. These days, we have a lot of trackers out there, and they all do a great job. But in my mind, it was Rob Miller, who is the guy who really put tracking dogs on the map and in hunters' brains here in Michigan. And with the youth hunt coming up, it seemed like a good time to get him back on the phone line. Rob, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, Mike. Good morning. Thanks for having me back on. All is well.
It's always a pleasure to talk with you. And, man, enjoy your rest while you can get it, because things are going to change here for you in a hurry.
Oh, it's gonna ramp up. I know we got a bunch of us heading down to Kentucky, this coming weekend for their opener to get a little jump start early with our dogs. So we're always ready to go.
Kentucky? I thought you guys were Michigan guys.
Yeah, well, we track when we can track, right? So we'll get down there and help that early rush that they have for their opener here coming up.
Oh, well, that'll be fun. Do you ever get called in to track bears?
Yeah, actually, I got a track out last year. I did for a bear. Unfortunately, the bear was not a lethally shot bear, but we tracked the bear a long ways and proved the bear was still to be alive. But yeah, there's a few trackers that, more up into the central Michigan, they get more of the bear calls, and bears overall with dogs are very easy to track. So if they're mortally wounded, the dogs find them really easily. So
okay,
we get some bear calls.
You say bears are easy to track. What about whitetails? Because that's the bulk of your business right there. Are they easy to track?
Yeah. Whitetails are so strong, Mike. I mean, you know that. They're just so resilient. The willingness to survive is just unmatched, I believe. But, for the dogs, trained dogs that have a lot of experience, when they're dead deer, they're not that difficult for a dog to try, to follow. So when a deer is shot and it's dying, it's exuberating a lot of breath, blood, interdigital scent rafts. There's a whole scent cocktail that comes off a deer that's dying, and these dogs just tune right on it and go right to the recovery.
So hold on here. So when a person goes out tracking a deer, you're following a blood trail. You say your dogs are following more than just the blood trail?
Yeah, we call it a scent cocktail. It's one thing I've really, as I've been doing this, over my 12th year, we really learned that dogs really key in on these deer's breath. So as the deer is laboring to breathe, that scent is really, the dogs are really keen in on that. So we have the breath, the scent rafts, which is the skin cells of a deer. As a deer is dying, they're shedding by the millions of skin cells. And then you have blood, any stomach matter, things of that nature, just glands. There's a whole scent cocktail that these dogs can track, and we don't need the blood. We just need a deer to be fatally at the end of the trail.
So it's been 12 years now you guys have been doing this?
That I've been doing it, yeah. My 12th season.
Wow. And if I remember right, Rob, at first there was a little bit of hesitancy, a little bit of people thought, boy, this is not right, sending dogs out after deer. Now I realize you've got a lot of constraints, a lot of regulations, but the attitudes have certainly changed. Hunters embrace you guys now, it seems to me. Yeah,
we're all well loved and utilized, and it's a beautiful thing. Our network now has got 51 trackers, and there's more than that in our state. There's probably 70, 80 trackers now in our state. Unfortunately, the majority of them are through the mid-Michigan southern region, so the northern Michigan and UP is still pretty thin as far as trackers, but we all travel. And hunters have really learned to trust us and utilize us. And I think last year, Mike, our group put like 900-some deer in the freezers for hunters. So just imagine how many animals are not being wasted now.
Yeah. Are you guys licensed? Are you guys regulated?
It's call it license would be a false statement. We have an annual permission that is granted through the DNR. And what that means is that the dogs have been tested, and it means that the trackers have their CPL, and that we basically just get a written permission from the DNR saying, hey, these guys have done a few things that the state's required, and that's kind of the only requirements that's available right now.
All right, so when I go online then, how do I, forgive me, but how do I choose a good tracker from somebody who's not as good? How do I know?
Well, that's when 4 years ago we started the Michigan Deer Tracking Network, so we can kind of have some regulations and our own rules applied. And so we've done that, and so like I said, we have 51 teams that's a part of the network, and that means all 51 teams have been tested either by a United Blood Trackers judge, which we just had a scent workshop in June, and we had trackers for our judges from Oklahoma, Louisiana, Alabama, Texas. So these are national judges that came here and tested all of our dogs. So we kind of put that list together. We published a list on social media, And so when hunters can go on that list, they all right, these guys at least have been somewhat tested and regulated, and should be trustworthy teams to be able to call upon.
Where do I find that list online?
It'll be posted on Michigan Deer Tracking Network's group. It'll be on my Facebook page, Miller Deer Tracking. I can even personally send it to you.
No. I was just curious. So if people are looking for it, if they're listening to this and they want to find it, they can find it on your Facebook page, Miller Deer Tracking on Facebook. Right, Rob?
That's correct.
All right, Rob, hang tight. Listen, I got to take a break. A lot more questions for you. We're talking with Rob Miller, deer tracking guru here in Michigan. We'll talk about his dogs after the break, about what you can expect if you call in a tracker, what you should do to make the job easier, all coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City on WTCM. That's 580 AM. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC. That's AM and FM, 660 AM and 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Rapid River Knife Works. I have in my pocket, and I'm getting it out right now, a Rapid River knife. Listen, you carry a knife all the time, right? Or you have a need for a knife all the time. I say, why not carry a Michigan-made knife? Rapid River Knife Works in Rapid River in the UP. Chris Durson, the man behind the company, is a master knife maker. The people there do a wonderful job. This knife is the nicest, most solid and sharp. You heard me open it right there. And solid and sharpest knife I have ever had. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us is the website, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us. Check out, too, their beautiful showroom in the city of Rapid River. If you can't make it up there, check out the website, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us. While you're online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And if you're on Facebook, head on over to Miller Deer Tracking on Facebook. That's the Facebook page of Rob Miller. I think Michigan's best known deer tracker. And Rob, when we first started talking years ago, I thought, man, you've got walkers or blue ticks or some big hounds that you're using. But it's not, is it?
No, well, currently I lost Cypress, my dash hound, this past January. She was 11 years old, and unexpectedly she passed away after a track in January. But right now I'm running a 42-pound Slavinsky Kopov. It's a dog from Slovakia. It's just a mid-sized black and tan scent hound from Europe. And then I replaced, I got another dog from Austria, an Applandish Dashbrack, which is a scent specialist from the Europe breeds. Kind of favorite of those European working dogs because they've been doing it for so much longer than us. Doing it professionally, so I use their working lines. But Siren is my newest pup. She's 9-10 months old now, and she's about 40 pounds. But the majority of trackers, I think it's pretty most popular right now in our state is the Bavarian Mountain Hound, and that's a 30 to 45 pound dog. It's another European scent hound. But we have a couple walkers now. We actually have that, Mike. Got a guy named Odie. He's got a walker. There's several bloodhounds now. Bloodhounds are kind of making a real popular return.
Ah. Well, what can we expect? Okay, I hit an animal. It's not a great hit. I know it's not. I'm going to have a problem. I call you in. What should I expect?
What you should expect is probably a good half-hour-long phone interview, and we do that for multiple reasons. One, we want the hunter to truly understand what's going to come out of having the dog show up. We got to make sure that you, as a hunter, has permissions to be on all the neighboring properties. You, as a hunter, you've actually purchased your deer tag. I mean, we've had that the last couple of years. Guys have completely forgot to buy their deer tags, and we show up and get the DNR involved. It's a mess.
Yeah.
So we like just to make sure we're all legal, we're all on the same playing field, and then we're just going to basically break down how the dog's going to start at the shot site. We're going to look at the evidence, and then let the evidence, unfold as the dog works, and will tell us if the deer is dead or the deer is not dead. So then you can at least have peace of mind, hey, I did everything I could, my deer is just not fatally shot, or it is, and we're going to recover it.
That's a very interesting point in that you can have a successful track that does not result in a recovery as long as you know that deer is still alive.
Yeah, and I would say, Mike, odds are we probably have more tracks that are non-lethally shot than lethally shot. These deer are just strong, and then just a lot of bow equipment, you have to hit them really well to kill them. If not, these deer survive.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's true. Is there such a thing as an average track? I mean, can you say, if I say, Rob, how long is the average track? You probably can't give me an answer, can you? Well,
I would say let's say the deer that we normally find are liver shots or stomach shots. These are the ones where the dogs that's their sweet spot. We averagely find those between 400 and 600 yards. Double lung shots, we hardly don't get those calls. Heart shots, we don't get those calls. So I would say if you have a liver stomach shot and you're going to bring in a dog, odds of success is going to be very high, and expect between 400 and 600 yards.
Okay,
now, high shots.
High shots. Let's talk about that. The high shot, no man's land.
Yeah, so you have the high shots that can bleed really well in the beginning, and then the blood quickly stops. And the hunter's like, man, look, all this blood for 50 yards, and then it stops. And then, those are ones that the deer just simply aren't fatal. But maybe in the beginning, what they think is good blood is just decent amount of muscle blood.
When should I call you guys in? How long should I wait? What should I do? Should I start off on the track on my own first?
Well, it really depends on your shot placement. If you feel like your shot was everything that you hoped it to be, I would say, the best case situation, say, hey, Rob, I just shot one. I liked the way everything looks. Just kind of giving you a heads up that I got one shot here in Saginaw County. Then I'll be like, hey, all right, Mike, good luck. Maybe send me some pictures of the arrow. I can just maybe have a little brief conversation, because all that's free of charge. So we could just, Mike, the arrow looks good. I agree with everything in your assessment. Pick up the trail in an hour, and good luck. At least the communication started, and I do that with a lot of customers. I mean, I have thousands of customers that send me texts daily just to bounce ideas off of their situation, and I can guide them through it. And then in the case where I am needed, I'm up to speed, you're up to speed, and then we can make the right choices moving forward.
You mentioned Saginaw County. Do you guys work just specific areas? I mean, you've got to be limited geographically in that you can't travel to the far western UP on a routine track, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, so the western UP, we have one guy that's up there for the beginning of the season, but, for the most part, we're kind of centrally located. Like I'm in Genesee County, and it's nothing for me to travel 2 or 3 counties in a radius on a daily basis. So that's where we have our network, and we're kind of all spread out. But if I don't have no calls coming in, and you're in the UP and I have nothing to do, I have no problem driving 5 hours to go help you.
Well, if you do that, your time is worth something. I mean, can I ask what it costs to bring a tracking dog out?
Well, it's a popular question, and it's one that obviously I agree needs to be addressed. So right now, across the board, I think most trackers are on the average of $100 to $150 for a 1 hour radius of their residence is roughly what most guys are charging. There's very few guys that are charging crazy hundreds and hundreds of dollars, unless they have to travel 5, 6, 7 hours across the state. Then that guy might charge you $500-600.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he's got to take a day off of work and 12 hours in the car. I mean, it's going to be expensive. But for the mass majority of it, I would say 100 can bank on $150, and they're going to know if their deer is dead or not.
Are you getting most of your calls for people who shoot trophy bucks, or might it be a kid's first spike, or is it a doe? I mean, I don't think once a hunter puts an arrow into an animal, it doesn't really matter what it is, right? You want that animal.
Right. Mike, early on, I think it was a lot of just trophy guys calling. But, I mean, the last couple of years, a lot of people are calling for the does and the youth hunt. The youth hunt, no one charges for the youth hunt. At least I don't think anyone. Everyone probably tracks by donation for the youth hunt, just to make sure we just get all these kids' deers found and all that. But it's a beautiful thing how many people are hiring for does now. And, you know, when the guy calls me with a doe, I definitely reduce my rate if I'm available to. You know, we're all about wanting these deer in the freezer. Hunter's happy. So, no, it's not the big trophy kill like it used to be.
I would think, and this is, you know, based on personal experience, that, you know, if you don't have a good blood trail and you think that animal's down, in the past, what we would do is call in some buddies. We'd go over the area. We'd do a grid search. We'd do circles. But if we do that, knowing we're going to call you guys in, aren't we making it just that much harder for you?
Yeah. What ends up happening is every human then carries the blood or like I said before, the skin cells and all that's going to be just collected on everyone, and that's just going to make a big, complete, contaminated mess of an area. Not that the dogs can't work it out. It's just time-consuming. And it's also going to be a little hard for the handler to understand why their dog's going in circles or why is the dog going there and over here and over there. It just really makes things confusing. So if you're going to utilize a dog, use the dog first on a nice, clean scent trail as possible. One guy or two guys tracking it really does not cause any negative effect towards the dog. And then if the dog is unsuccessful, then that's when, hey, bring in your buddies, grid search, bring in a drone, things like that, and then really beat the area down. But, yeah, it's always best to set that dog up for success, and then you'll be more successful in the end also.
Can you use a drone? I thought you couldn't use a drone to recover an animal.
Yep, you can use drones. You just can't have no camouflage on and no hunting equipment.
Oh, that's good to know. Also, you mentioned that your guys have CPLs. Why is that important?
I think the DNR used that kind of as a screening process.
Yeah, because then they got the information on you. They got your background and everything. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But we as the trackers can't dispatch. Only the licensed hunter with the weapon of the season.
So, and we're running out of time here. If it's bow season, Can your hunter carry his bow with him after dark?
With a certified tracker, yep.
Okay.
And they can shoot with the bow after dark with the handheld flashlight.
Oh, they can. Okay. All right.
Yep.
All right, Rob, all good info. Your Facebook page is Miller's Deer Tracking, and for the network, it's Michigan Deer Tracking Network, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
How many tracks would you expect you'll run this fall?
I'll probably go on 150.
You must learn a lot on these things.
Well, last year, Mike, I had my all-time best. I put 71 deer on the tailgate.
Wow. And every one is probably a learning experience and probably a pretty cool experience. It's always
a learning experience.
Rob Miller, appreciate your time. Good luck. Have a great season.
Thank you, Mike. Bye.
Rob Miller of Miller's Deer Tracking. On Facebook, his Facebook page is Miller Deer Tracking, and the network is Michigan Deer Tracking Network. Find that, do a screenshot of it, put it on your phone, and so you've got the numbers of all these people when it comes time to use them. You don't want to be fumbling around at 10 o'clock at night. You're all stressed out. The trackers are already out on other tracks trying to find numbers. I get calls from people all the time. What are those numbers? Find them right now, do a screenshot, and put it on your phone. Michigan Deer Tracking Network or a Miller Deer Tracking as well. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Adam Bump from the DNR talking about our fall turkey season right here in the great state of Michigan. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Tawas on WIOS, AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Newberry on WNBY, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Wilds Plumbing and Heating. From plumbing, heating, air conditioning, sump pumps, ductwork cleaning, anything to keep the mechanicals of your house running smoothly, to keep you warm or cool, depending on the season, and dry and comfortable. The folks from Wilds can help you out. Their slogan is whatever it takes, and I've seen them do that. Several jobs at 2 different houses now for me. They do a great job. I have no problem encouraging you to invite them in your house as well. They've done a wonderful job for me, as I know they will for you. Check them out online at wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's wildsplumbingandheating.com. Well, I told you this is the fall hunting season is underway now. I got my Ontario bear. I'm looking forward to shooting a Michigan whitetail, and I would love the chance to shoot a fall turkey here in Michigan. I had several close encounters in the springtime, did not get a bird, and hoping to redeem myself this fall. To talk more about that, Adam Bump from the Michigan DNR. Adam, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Mike.
Hey, listen, last time we talked, we were talking on a different type of critter. How'd you end up in this role?
Well, I'm pulling double duty right now, so I'm doing my fur bear duties. That's what I think we talked about last time. Yeah. And Al Stewart, our longtime upland game bird specialist, decided to retire and spend some more time, I think, outdoors. So I'm covering his workload right now, too.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you're doing that. So listen, if somebody forgot to apply for a fall turkey tag, are they out of luck now?
No, actually, 2 days ago, on August 30th, leftover licenses went on sale to everybody. So anybody, whether you applied or not, now has opportunity to get one of those leftover licenses.
And are there a bunch of them out there? Is it like the springtime? If you want to hunt birds in the fall in Michigan now, Adam, you can basically do it, or is it a little more restrictive?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. Southern Michigan, the southern third of the state, is pretty open, especially on private land. We have some of those general licenses that are good on any land ownership types that you might have some units that are getting close to getting sold out. But I think pretty much anyone that wants to hunt turkeys in that southern portion of the lower peninsula and in a little bit of the upper peninsula would have an opportunity to go out and get some licenses.
Big change in the fall is you can shoot either sex bird, correct?
That's right. The fall hunt is designed as a management hunt, so our objective is actually to try to stabilize or reduce populations in some areas. So the best way to do that is actually have people harvesting hens. So we encourage people to go out and shoot hens, but if they have a chance at a tom, that's fine too. Anything goes in the fall season when it comes to turkey hunting.
Why not do that same thing in the springtime? If the goal is to bring down the population, why not shoot hens in the spring as well?
So in the springtime, the objective there is to try not to impact the population, try not to take hens that are actively nesting. Usually by the time most Michigan spring season start, you already have nesting activity that occurs. So the way to have a good, successful hunt and maintain healthy populations is to only allow toms in the spring, and then look at those areas where we can provide opportunities and also look to stabilize and reduce in the fall. Gives us that separation and keeps the objectives of those two different periods similar or manageable.
Yeah, I can see if you started shooting hens in the springtime, you could have a real strong negative impact on the size of the flock.
Yep, that's true. Mm-hmm.
What about the hunt itself? Now, in the springtime, it's a lot of setting out decoys, a lot of calls. Are the same tactics used in the fall, or is it more of an ambush type thing or an opportunity type thing, like you're sitting in a deer stand and a turkey walks by?
I think that it's a lot of different options that you probably have more opportunities to try different things than you would in the spring. So I think some people probably still try to do some calling, but not the same as spring. So they're not usually as responsive, and they're not aggressively coming in to calls and displaying in most cases. So you get actually one of the very traditional forms of turkey hunting is using dogs, and dogs are legal in our fall season and not in spring. So some guys have specially trained dogs that basically go into a flock, disperse it as much as possible, and then come and lay beside the hunter, and the hunter calls, not like you would to a tom, but calls the flock back together, and they come back to that calling and are available for shooting. So people ambush hunt them. A lot of people in the fall will use turkey hunting as a way to get out and do some deer scouting. A lot of people sit in their archery tree stands and have a turkey license and take turkeys if they happen by. I've had several occasions where I live in southern Michigan where there's no grouse and woodcock, but I have a pointing dog. And occasionally when I'm working the dog down here, training them or just getting them out and about, I'll get a point on a turkey that's on the edge of a field somewhere. And so I've always thought it might be kind of fun to try to shoot a turkey over point. I haven't done it, but I'm like you. I didn't get one this spring, and I need to redeem myself this fall somehow.
Well,
so
good luck on that, Adam.
There's a lot of opportunities.
I appreciate that. Good luck, Adam. And again, you can buy these licenses online or at any license agent. The website, michigan.gov/DNR. When I got the email a couple of days ago from the DNR reminding me that these tags were available, I went out and got one right then. You can do the same, and you can be hunting turkeys in Michigan here this fall. Michigan.gov/DNR. We'll take a break, and when we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment dealing with how do you get across the border right now, and what are the logistics of bringing home meat. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in port here on WPHM 1380 AM. You can hear us on the other side of the state in Manistee, WMLQ 97.7 FM. And you can hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS, the Twister. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works is you can send me a question, something you would like me to answer directly, or a topic that you'd like me to pass on to somebody, I don't know, MUCC or DNR or something like that maybe you can't get to that I can. Best way, I think, to get those questions to me is via email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, but you can hit me up on any of the social media outlets as well. This week's question is not just one question from one person. It's a variety of questions from a bunch of people, and it pertains to my bear hunt in White River last week. First question is, how was it getting across the border? How did you get across the border? Number one, to get into Canada right now, you have to be fully vaccinated and prove it. You have to have a negative COVID test within 72 hours of crossing the border, and they won't use the antibody test. It has to be one of the other type tests. And have proof of that. You have to fill out this Arrive Canada app on your phone where you say where you're going, when, where you're going to be, how long you're going to be in the country. You have to provide proof of the documentation of your vaccinations. It's not hard, but it's fairly thorough. I had mine all in order. I waited in line 45 minutes because they only had one lane open in the Sioux. 45 minutes to get to the agent. And from the time I was there, it took me 4 or 5 minutes. He said, everything looks in order. I showed him my app. I showed him my paperwork. Boom, I was on through. I was concerned because part of that app says, quarantining for 14 days in Canada. I thought, well, I'm not planning on 14-day quarantine. I didn't have to. No problem at all. Getting back into the States, no problem whatsoever. All they wanted to see was my passport. There was no proof of vaccination at all. I did have to show them an export permit. Whenever you shoot a deer or a wolf or a bear, or I guess anything in Canada, and you're going to bring it back into the States, you obviously have to have your hunting license and you have to have an export permit. And I think that was like $35. I think they used to be $35. I think they're up to $40 now. And that's like basically a rubber stamp. I think it's just a way for the ministry to make money, to be honest with you, and keep track of the animals, yes. They don't even check your animal. Even when I brought a wolf back across, I've never had the animal actually checked. All they do when you pull up to the to the agent coming back into Michigan. They ask you what you were doing. Okay, I was bear hunting. Did you get an animal? Yes. Okay, go upstairs, show them your export permit, and fill out the paperwork. I found this time around that you can actually download the form ahead of time, fill it out, and you don't even have to go upstairs. So that's easy. That's nothing to it. Second part of the question is, what do you do with a bear after you shoot it? Well, getting it out of the bush, as they call it up there, can be a real treat. Mine went about 80 yards. It's so hard to tell in the dark when it's that thick. Left a very good trail. However, it went across some boulders, leaving a really nice trail, which was pretty cool, into some really, really thick stuff. Now, I knew I was not going to be able to get that bear out and across the water and across the boulders by myself. So I went back into town. I got Gibson and Liam, St. Louis, Ron's sons, and a couple of hunters. One of them, a Michigan guy, Steve from Frankenmuth, and they went back and helped. And they went out of their way. We get it back into town. Ron and his guys skin the animal, and they quarter the animal, and they put it in a big walk-in freezer, along with the hide. So what I did is I love bear brats, and I had a lot of people who say, Avery, if you shoot a bear, I want some bear brats. And we also like bear burger for spaghetti and chili and stuff. I have no desire to eat bear steaks or bear roasts. So what I did is I brought the bear back to Stutzman's, a processor near Clare, dropped it off with them, and they deboned it, and then they work with the folks from Michigan Brand Meats. They'll get it to Michigan Brand, and my friends at Michigan Brand then will make it into brats and burger. And I'm getting pretty excited about that because bear brats on the grill are absolutely outstanding. Really looking forward to that. So the process of getting into Canada, out of Canada, and getting an animal across are really pretty easy. Didn't have to deal with anything like you deal with the Western states, where you got to have the brain and all that gone. Didn't have to deal with that at all because of CWD. No concern there at all. So thank you for your questions on that, and thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for helping to make each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in hour number 3, Chad Stewart of the DNR talks about deer hunting here in Michigan. Elk season's going on. Other questions as well. Matt Poet of Jay's Sporting Goods on their 50th anniversary. And I think Wild Game Chef Dave Minar is going to join us as well in hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us as we continue this celebration of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan and occasionally beyond. Now, this week's show, I will admit, I have talked a little bit about my Ontario bear hunt. I would love to be bear hunting in Michigan this year. Didn't get a tag. I expect that next year I will get a tag. But there's so much good hunting going on here in Michigan right now. And, the hunting season is underway here in our state now. The early goose season is open. The early teal season is open. We've got bear season opening up here in Michigan soon. We've got the youth hunt, the Liberty Hunt coming up here. What is it, next week already? We've got archery season opening up, a small game season opening up middle of the month. I mean, it's happening. This is the time of year right now that we wait for all year long. It's happening. But is there anything that gets more attention in our state than deer? I don't think so. I mean, the whitetail is king. Small game is a riot. Bear, I love. Turkey's wonderful. But the critter that gets the most attention here in our state is, I think, has got to be the whitetail deer. Now, with that attention, some of it negative, some of it positive. Some people complain, that our state isn't the deer hunting destination that it could be. They compare us to Kansas or Iowa or, Ohio or Illinois and say, why aren't we like that? I don't know. Also, lately, we've heard about diseases. TB, TB's been out there for a long time. What is it? EHD we didn't get this year that I know of. CWD continues to be a concern. Antler point restrictions, no baiting. I mean, there are so many topics surrounding deer hunting in Michigan these days. It's hard to keep track of it all. I'm glad I don't have to. Chad Stewart does have to. He's the big game specialist for the DNR, and he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Chad, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mike. Thanks for having me, and congratulations on your bear.
Hey, thanks. It was, after not being up there for a year because of COVID, it was just so nice to get back up into that countryside and see those people and, see bears up close and get a bear. It was a great trip. So I appreciate that, Chad. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Back home here in Michigan now, busy time of year for hunters, but I suspect you as a manager have been busy year round. Does it ever really slow down for you guys, Chad?
No, we really are thinking about deer season year round, honestly. So, obviously, the deer season has its own, speed. There's a lot of people that are sending in trail camera pictures because they're out scouting and they've got a deer that they have questions about, some sort of anomaly, whether it looks too thin or it's limping or it's got a wound or it's got a fibroma, which is like a wart. We get it all. And then obviously there's a lot of communications, during the deer season talking about what to expect and, the regulations that are in place, obviously running check stations and collecting samples for disease surveillance. But then after the deer season is over, we're getting right into analyzing data. We're looking at proposals for, the upcoming deer season. So it really never stops. It's a year-round endeavor.
You mentioned people sending pictures to you looking for input into a particular critter they might have on camera. Do you have the resources to do that? Do you guys are you able to respond to those requests?
Absolutely. We're really fortunate in that we've got, biologists and specialists, all over the state, for everything. And we've got a very active and, highly participated in, social media, network. There's obviously the Facebook and Twitter and, there's a bunch of other things that I'm probably not even familiar with. But we have people that monitor all of those platforms. And it's very easy for someone to submit a picture from a trail camera or just get in touch directly with a biologist, and whether it's a regional biologist or a specialist like myself who's focused on individual animals at a statewide level, we try to answer as many of those questions or respond in any way that we can in terms of what is going on with that individual animal. Or a lot of times we get a "what animal is this?" Because it's sort of a blurry photo, and we try to respond to as many of those as we can. And I think we do a pretty good job, and we try to get that in front of the right person to make somewhat of an educated guess as much as we can.
Sure. What about changes in regulations for hunters this fall? Anything we're going to be dealing with?
There's not a whole lot that has changed this year. One of the biggest changes, though, is we have what we call a universal antlerless license now. So if you remember how the antlerless license have been allocated previously, it's been by specific deer management unit and then by public and private land within that deer management unit. What we did is we looked at some of the trends that were occurring across many of the management units, many of the counties, especially in the lower peninsula, and they were all sort of trending in the same direction. You know, we have increasing deer populations in most, I won't say all, but most deer management units, and a desire to either stabilize or decrease the deer population in most of those areas. So we sat there and thought, why don't we make it a lot easier for hunters to have an antlerless license that can be utilized across multiple counties or deer management units. So what we came up with was this concept of the universal antlerless license. So you simply purchase your antlerless license and you go hunt, and that's consistent anywhere in the lower peninsula. It's good on public or private property, and it's good in parts of the upper peninsula as well. And in other parts of the upper peninsula, because we do have to restrict participation a little bit more, you have to get what's called a hunter access permit, and that's a free permit once you get it. But you basically have to have that as well as your base license and one of these universal antlerless licenses to hunt in those designated areas.
When you say you want to cut down the size of the deer herd in some areas, that sticks in some hunters' craw because we want to see as many deer as possible. We want to see multiple deer every night in the stand. And now you're telling me from a management perspective, maybe we got too many deer in places.
We're definitely seeing increasing trends in a lot of areas, but you're right. And I think one of the challenges that the state has or a biologist has in communicating with hunters is that the scale in that we talk of and the scale that a lot of hunters talk of are very different. So a lot of hunters are really talking at sort of a local or a partial in the county, scale, whereas, we're talking at sort of at least a county-wide or a deer management unit level. And we all know that deer are not distributed evenly across a county. So it's very possible that a hunter can contact me and say, I don't know what you're doing with this universal antlerless license because I'm not seeing the deer that I used to see. I'm not seeing what there should be. And there's completely, that individual has complete credence on what's going on. They could absolutely be correct in what they're seeing. But when we look at like county level data or deer management unit level data, the story might be a little bit different. So recognizing that there's a difference between a countywide trend and a local trend is one of the first steps in trying to understand, the direction that the agency is trying to move the deer herd in.
Do you hear those criticisms? Because it's popular in some circles to always take jabs at the DNR, and nothing is easier to jab the DNR about than deer management. Do you guys try to insulate yourselves from that and just do your job, or do you hear those things? And if so, it's got to bother you.
No, we obviously hear it, but we don't try to insulate ourselves to it either. One of the things that I think that every biologist and certainly every agency should be had is accountability. So when we talk about accountability, we should be able to defend our recommendations. And the best way we do that is with data. So if someone contacts me and says, I'm not seeing as many deer as I typically see in this county, like X county, I can go into that county and look at the harvest records, look at the trends that we've been seeing. And certainly that individual might be seeing fewer animals, might be having less reduced success. But if I can go in and show them data at the countywide level and say, I know that you're seeing fewer deer where you're at, but our harvest has actually increased by 10% over the past, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, that generally indicates a growing herd, especially when you have fewer hunters, as well as talking through the impacts of the recommendations that we're making. Usually I can at least get people to understand the agency's direction and the data that we're looking at in terms of what we're recommending and what we're trying to accomplish. They might not still agree with the direction that we're going, but they can at least understand the justification and why we're doing that. But promoting that data and having accountability and being able to defend, our recommendations based on that data is really important. And that's not something that we shy away from.
We're talking with Chad Stewart of the DNR. He's the big game specialist for the department. The website, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, talking about the upcoming deer season and more. But first, we've got to take a break right here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll wrap up our conversation with Chad. We'll talk with Matt Poet of Jay's Sporting Goods and wild game chef Dave Minar as well, coming up in Hour 3 of Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM and 99.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard, as they have for me, and they are now for my neighbors as well. From lawn maintenance to, what else can we see? Pruning, mowing, backyard patios, fire pits, anything to keep your property up to snuff, to keep it beautiful. The folks from Reader can help you out. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's Reader Landscaping, R-E-D-E-R, readerlandscaping.com. Talking now with Chad Stewart of the DNR. He's the big game specialist for the DNR. Chad, so many questions I could ask you, but the one I'll throw at you right away is a question I get all the time. When are we going to, we being the state or DNR or whatever, when are we going to allow baiting to return to the Lower Peninsula for whitetails?
Yeah, that's a popular question to get. I get that one a lot myself, Mike. And I think the short answer is, the department, I don't anticipate the department recommending a return to baiting or feeding in the Lower Peninsula at any time in the near future. That's something that we've taken a pretty hard stance on. Obviously, wildlife diseases, especially like CWD and bovine tuberculosis in our deer herd, is very important for our management standpoint. We do not believe that baiting is conducive to, coexisting with those two things on the environment. So I do not see us recommending a return to allowing baiting in the Lower Peninsula. That being said, it's important to note that we don't make the regulations. We just simply recommend the regulations as an agency. The Natural Resources Commission has the final say in whether or not baiting and feeding comes back. Additionally, obviously things can be reinstituted through a legislative process, and both of those avenues are out of our control. But from a recommendation standpoint, I don't think the DNR will make a recommendation to return that at all anytime in the near future. Now that we have lived with CWD for a few years, what are your thoughts? Is it as scary as it was off the bat, right off the bat?
I guess it depends on your definition of scary. I don't think anything that we've seen in the past couple years has led us to a different conclusion than when we first had it or first discovered it in Michigan. We were obviously familiar with the disease in other states and how it's projecting and tracking there. And I think those are still the concerns. So we know that short term, you're not really going to see impacts with it. It's a very, very slow moving disease, but it's persistent and it stays in the environment and it generally expands over time, both in the area where it was first identified and across the landscape as well. So I think it's still as concerning as it was when we first found it in 2015. And those concerns haven't gone away. I think there is better research, and we're continuing to learn more about it every day with the help of some fantastic researchers across the country and across the globe, honestly. So it's still a concern for us. It's still one of our top management priorities as we consider, what we're doing with our deer herd long term. And there's obviously still those concerns and what CWD will look like in 20 or 30 years when we're all kind of gone or out of this job or whatever, and what we're leaving behind for a next generation. And we don't want to leave a mess for the next generation to clean up when actions today
could have helped prevent it or mitigate some of that in the future.
Earlier, I talked about comparing deer hunting in Michigan to some other states. What is the philosophy of the department here? Do you want Michigan to be a destination for trophy hunters, or do you want this to be a state where a bunch of people can go out and shoot a bunch of deer and maybe not as big as some other states?
I think our main priority for deer management is, one, having a healthy and sustainable deer herd. I think that's a top priority for us. We don't want to make decisions where our regulations or an action is going to lead to an area where, deer hunting all of a sudden becomes closed, or, there's a lot of sick deer on the landscape. We don't want to, we want a healthy, thriving, abundant deer herd. And with that, we want to provide opportunities for as many people to participate as much as possible. Obviously, we recognize that there's a lot of interest in trophy hunting and trophy management. And I think compared to a lot of other Midwestern states, we don't have that reputation. I think there are some reasons for that. One, we have still over 500,000 deer hunters in the state, so the numbers of deer hunters that we have participating in our state far exceed what most Midwestern states experience. So that, I think that's one of the major obstacles in having a trophy deer herd in our state. And two, there's some habitat things as well, too. So we don't have nearly the type of soils that a place like Iowa has, a place like, Illinois has. So, we're working with a little bit less than what those states have to offer. And certainly that's not to say there's some overlap. There is. But, we recognize the importance of trophy deer management in the state. We think that it's improving, certainly compared to what it was 20 years ago. It's just not improving at the speed that I think some people like. And I think it's important to sort of understand where we came from in the history in terms of where we're going, rather than, just wanting it, fast and furious and be there right away. It takes time to sort of build a trophy herd up and a high quality herd. And I think we're well on our way. And I think there's a lot of really great opportunities for people to experience, whether you're a trophy hunter or not.
Some quick questions before we jump over to a different subject. Will we ever see a $1 limit here in Michigan?
That's a good question, and I think I just don't know. We had a question on our deer hunter survey last year about this, and 48% of people responded said they were in support of a $1 rule. So it's essentially a coin flip in terms of who wants it and who doesn't. Now, the number of people that supported it exceeded the number that opposed, and that's because we have additional categories where you're unsure, or you can kind of go either way. So I think that's still an interesting question. I think it's one that we're currently exploring, but we don't really have a lot of clear, definitive resolution on it based on at least some of the data that we've gotten from preferences from our hunters.
Has there been any thought of making the youth hunt a does-only hunt?
That comes up a little bit, at least in discussion and conversation with hunters in terms of an interest. We've not really explored that path, to be honest with you, Mike. I think we're comfortable with where it stands in terms of an either sex hunt. When you look at what's being taken from our Liberty hunt, you're looking at, last year was a great year for youth hunters. It was a great weekend. We had about 10,000 deer taken that weekend, and 10,000 deer out of a statewide harvest of about 410,000 deer. It's really pretty small potatoes in terms of what constitutes the overall harvest. So we don't think there's a management impact to allowing youth hunters participate and pursue antler deer during the Liberty hunt. So it's not something that we fully entertained, at least in recent conversations.
Final whitetail question. Why do we not have mandatory reporting of harvest here in Michigan?
That's a really good question, and it's one that I think will probably be changing here in the next year or two. So starting this year, we're actually testing a system for what we call voluntary reporting. So hunters can get online, report their harvest, and go through, the system to, report, what you harvested, the location, and maybe a couple other questions. And this is our trial run, essentially, to get feedback, to make sure that the system's working. And I fully anticipate sometime next year us proposing a recommendation to the Natural Resources Commission to institute a mandatory harvest reporting program for the 2022 season for deer. And I think that will probably go through, at least with the early indications that I've had. So I think we're moving in that direction. And this year is the first opportunity to sort of test drive that system. And there'll be more conversation or communication coming out about that here in the coming weeks.
Chad, as the big game specialist, you're not only responsible for whitetails, but also moose and elk as well. And we just, as we're recording this, the early elk season is underway. Any reports out of there at all, how that's going?
I haven't gotten any reports yet. This is only yesterday was our opening day with it. I did see one really nice bull come across the social media. I'm sure that made the rounds, but it's a hot start. A lot of the harvests in this opening season, typically you start seeing in the second 4-day period or the third 4-day period, and especially as you get into the elk starting to bugle a little bit more, and it becomes a lot more of an exciting hunt with a little bit cooler temperatures. So it's a little early for a report just yet, but we've got 100 lucky people that are out starting already elk hunting in Michigan, and I think there's probably thousands of others that are envious of those
that's for sure.
People that are out participating.
And that elk bugling, the elk rut, should be starting here in the next couple of weeks or so, huh?
Yes. September is a great time. So if you're looking for a sort of a weekend excursion, just to sort of go out and experience, that big wild with elk bugling, I would focus more towards late September and pick a nice weekend, and you probably get lucky as you go into that heart of the elk territory and hear some bugling, and that's just an awesome sound and experience.
It is, and the number of people I talk to who don't even realize we have an elk herd in Michigan. Take the family up to the Pigeon River Forest, get out there early in the morning or in the evening, and it's just a wonderful sight. And just one more great thing we have here for a resource in Michigan. Chad Stewart of the DNR, always appreciate your time. Have a good season.
Hey, thanks, Mike. You too.
All righty. Chad Stewart of the Michigan DNR, the website michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. He is the big game specialist. He is the guy. You hear his name a lot when we talk about whitetail management, but he's also has elk and moose under his authority as well. How cool is that? Speaking of cool things, Jay's Sporting Goods is celebrating their 50th anniversary. And coming up after the break, we'll talk with Matt Poet of Jay's about what to expect from that. And then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us in Saginaw. Well, let's see. You can hear us in the Sioux on ESPN 1400 WKNW. In fact, when I was in the Sioux, both Michigan and Ontario, I ran into several people who said, "Hey, Mike, we listen to your show all the time." So that was pretty cool. And you can also hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. But for these 3 hours, we call this corner of the building the Outdoor Magazine studio. Pat Johnston in here with me doing a wonderful job as always. I talked earlier about Jay's Sporting Goods 50th anniversary. Jay's Sporting Goods, a family-owned, Michigan-based company, the original family-owned outdoor superstore, 2 big stores in Clare and Gaylord, the website jaysportinggoods.com. They're celebrating their 50th anniversary. Matt Poet is the marketing director for Jay's, and he's third generation of the Poet family. And with me more to talk a little bit more about that. Matt, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great. What an exciting time for you guys. Congrats.
Thank you. It is.
Oh,
it's something you don't expect. It just came on quick. Especially with everything that's been going on the last couple of years. It's like, we got time. We can start planning some stuff, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, it's here next weekend.
and it is right next weekend.
Yeah, September 10th through the 12th. We're having our anniversary celebration.
And what can we expect? What is Jay's customers? What are we going to find?
Oh, man. I don't even know where to begin. We're doing over $50,000 in giveaways that weekend alone. We're going to have food trucks. A lot of the reps that we worked with, throughout the industry for years, they're going to be here on hand just to, be here for our customers and to help celebrate with us. We're going to have activities for the kids, for all ages, activities for, all of our customers. It's just going to be a fun-filled and packed weekend.
And that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or just Saturday and Sunday?
Nope, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We try to make it as, we used to do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but we found out that the key time slot for everyone to try to get, everyone that can make it, with work schedules and stuff like that, 3 days is just better. We know people plan things on the weekend, so if you can get out a little early on Friday, you can come up. If not, you can, we have so many opportunities. So we just try to make it available to everyone.
Is this at the Gaylord store as well, or primarily at the Claire store?
This is Claire and Gaylord, and this is Jay's Sporting Goods anniversary, so it's both locations.
Both locations. The story of how you guys started is so cool. Started by your grandpa, Jay Poet, as Jay's is named after. What's it like for you now to be third generation working in this and helping to put together this 50th anniversary celebration?
It's pretty surreal. It's very cool to, I always wanted to come into the family business. My grandfather passed away while I was pretty young, so I'm very fortunate to be able to work in a family business and to be able to hear the stories about my grandfather that I would never have been able to hear elsewhere. We have customers that come in that knew us when we were in the garage, we were in the blue store, that worked with Jay, and to hear the stories about him and just how he helped us become what we are today. It's just, I couldn't get that anywhere else. So that's just a blessing that I hope to never take for granted. But it's amazing to be able to, working with a family has its ups and downs. There's always a dynamic working with family, but, I wouldn't have it any other way to get to see my family every day, not just on celebrations, but, to work with and to, tackle the outdoor industry with, and just to be able to bring the sport to people in ways that, help enhance the experience.
It's the American dream. A guy has a dream, he has a goal, he makes it a reality, and you guys are living that now. Before I let you go, though, too, next Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, we're going to do a Wednesday night live at your Claire store, right?
Yeah. You're gonna be here on location. I'm gonna be here, and we're gonna just kind of, talk about. I don't even know what we're going to talk about. We'll have
we'll find something.
But we'll have some. If people can come out and visit us, we'll have some promotional stuff to hand out, and for those that make the trip. And yeah, I think it'll be a good night.
All right, so we are encouraging people to swing by the Claire store Wednesday night, the 8th at 7 o'clock for a Wednesday night live. We'll make it worth your while. Come on out and say hi. And, of course, then the big celebration that following Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 50 years of Jay's Sporting Goods. Congrats to you, Matt, and everybody not just in the Poet family, but everybody in the Jay's family as well.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we appreciate everyone, and we're looking forward to this.
I am as well. Matt Poet of Jay's Sporting Goods, the website jaysportinggoods.com. That's jaysportinggoods.com. You can find them there online, obviously, at the social media outlets as well. And then the two big superstores, one in Claire, the original store, and in Gaylord. Now, the original store wasn't really where it is now. It started out in the city of Claire, working out of Jay's garage. Didn't always make him real popular with his wife, Arlene. I think we're talking with Arlene on the next Jay's Sporting Goods podcast and some other Jay's folks as well. Then they moved the store to the famous Blue Building in Clare that many of you remember. That store, that Blue Building has now recently been torn down. From there, they made the monumental leap to move the store a mile north of town. And at the time, people said, Jay, you're crazy. Nobody's going to go a mile north of Clare to find you guys. Well, guess what? They did. They've expanded the store a couple of times since then. They've gone to Gaylord, expanded that location. It's a wonderful success story and a company that I've been working with since the beginning. I could not be more proud and happy for the folks at Jay's, jaysportinggoods.com. We'll take a break. When we come back. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. So glad to have you along with us. For 3 hours each week, we talk about the outdoors, the great outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle. Hunting, fishing, shooting, trapping, conservation issues, wildlife issues. It's fun. It is biologically sound. It is necessary for the health of the critters that we pursue to keep them under control. A great fishing trip or hunting trip is not dependent on bringing something home for the table. It's not. But it is indeed a bonus. And when I think about cooking up fish or wild game, you know who I think of. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, who is a big part of the Outdoor Magazine franchise. I worked with Dave during the Outdoor Magazine TV show, and he wraps up almost each week's radio show as well. David, I haven't talked to you for a couple of weeks. It sure is nice to have you back on.
It's good to be back, Michael.
It's good to be back. What do you got for us this week, my friend?
Well, I know that I've talked to people in the early goose season has gone off with a bang, so to speak. But right now we got a pan-seared walleye topped with a garlic shrimp. And I've talked to numerous people, and the bay is on fire for walleye.
Well, that's good to hear.
How about you?
Well, I haven't been out walleye fishing for a while now. I just got back from Ontario, but if you're giving me a report about good fishing, I was going to get out and chase some perch, but if they're still getting walleye, I'll try that.
Yep, I heard numerous people. So anyway, you're going to need about 8 to 10 ounces of walleye per person, and what you want to do is skin it and debone it, take the bones out all the way back to the dorsal fin, cut on both sides a little bit, down through it, and you're going to have 4 to 5 larger shrimp per person. Butterfly them. Cut them. After you clean them, get the shells off. You want to cut them right down the middle, right up to the last tail section. So they're going to look like butterflied. You need about a half a jar of chicken gravy, a couple of tablespoons of diced onions. Oh, by the way, this is only for 2 portions. That's why we're using a smaller amount. You could use about 4 cloves of garlic diced up fine, or if you're so inclined, you can make the garlic butter. That's real easy to do. Half a cup of dry white wine, lemon juice to your taste, some olive oil to saute the fish and the shrimp, flour, same thing to dredge with, a couple of 3 tablespoons of Parmesan, and a little bit of chopped parsley, fresh or freeze-dried. So you're going to coat the filet in flour, egg, and brown it on both sides in a real nice hot pan with a little bit of olive oil. Start it with skin side up, so when you turn it over, the rib side will be facing the diner. Take them out of the pan, put them on a baking sheet or a casserole, and set them in a 350-degree oven while you're finishing the rest of this up. So you're going to take and dredge the shrimp in flour, shake it up real good, and a little bit more of hot olive oil. Brown the shrimp around real good. You don't want to overcook these. Maybe it's going to take you a minute or so. Take the shrimp out. Add the onions and saute it up just a little bit, just to kind of break the flavor loose. Add the lemon and the white wine and the garlic and boil that for just a minute to get the alcohol harshness flavor out. Add the gravy, and you got the garlic butter or the diced up garlic in there ready. Now, taste it. If it's to your flavor, put the shrimp back in And don't forget, you've got the fish in the oven, which is cooking. It's only going to take a little bit because they're almost done. You only want to cook the shrimp for another 2 or 3 minutes. Take the shrimp out, and after you plate the fish, you want to put the shrimp nicely decorated, like back to back to back, so because you got them butterflied, and they'll stay on top. Spoon the sauce over, a little bit of Parmesan and parsley. Killer. Killer. Salmon, too, would be good with this.
I wondered if you could use that with salmon. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or steelhead, right?
A little longer. Pardon me?
Or steelhead, too, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Any of the salmonoids would be good.
Oh, it sounds perfect. And how about, you mentioned goose. With early goose season underway now, how about a goose recipe next week?
I was lending towards that. You got it.
That sounds great.
I got a lot of them. And, man, I love goose.
Well, goose it's kind of a redder meat, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's as red as any of the darkest venison or elk.
Really?
And, if you cook it right, it's really tender. If you don't do justice to it, it's like an old old hunting boot. Dried up and nasty. So pay heed. We'll do a couple, and I'll give you some good hints for people that are so inclined to go goose hunting.
Perfect. That sounds great, David. We'll do that next time.
Thank you, Michael.
Wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. Because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason for me to do this show every week. There'd be no reason for Pat to come into the studio and help me. Now, there is a reason for Pat to do his own stuff, but not to come in here and help me with the Outdoor Magazine show. I do truly love what I'm doing, and I realize it is a blessing to be able to say that. I've been doing this for a long time. I have plans of doing this for quite a while longer. Now, I realize my plans and God's plans are not always the same, but if it's up to me, I'm going to be here at this microphone for a long time yet because I love this. I love sharing stories of the outdoors, and I want you to share your stories with me. Send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Join me on the social media outlets. Watch the Wednesday night lives, and I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.